Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for your patience since we had a slight mechanical delay at the gate here. So, today is September 16th, 2025, and this is the APFA Retirement Seminar, which we like to call Good Slide. Who are we?
Hi, I'm Kim Coates-Tuck. I'm the National Retirement Specialist.
And I'm Patrick Hancock, the APFA Retirement Specialist Emeritus, and I have no idea who those people are in those photographs. I suspect they got that out of some very bad stock thing. Yeah. We're also giving a shout out to Ron Harris. Hey, Ron.
Hey.
Hey. Ron Harris is not only an amazingly smart and inventful guy, but he's responsible for an awful lot of the content that you're going to see today. That was him and I on a layover in London. He may have been overserved. I can't really tell from this point, but yeah. So, hey, Ron. All right. So that's who we are. Who we are not is we are not the company. This is a union meeting, and I have been a union rep for way too many years. Therefore, I tend to be a little brusque when talking about the management of this company.
Especially these days.
And a lot of people are joining me in my disrespect of some of the things that they do. And if I say things about management that offend you, you'll get over it. Yeah. We are also not your financial advisors. We are not your attorneys. We are not your Medicare advisors, and we're not Social Security advisors. And the fact that we list all those indicates that you may need one or all of those people. We definitely recommend you speak to a financial advisor, even if you are 100% sure you're on top of it, just because a second pair of eyes never hurts. And you may need one or all of these people. We're not it, but we've got lots of suggestions on people that can help you fill those roles. So this is our APFA membership as of April of this year. We were trying to get it updated, but it didn't. That was part of the mechanical delay. So we've got 28,000 some number there of members. How many do you think over the age of 80? 80 age? Yeah. No, you're wrong. It's 30. Wow, that's amazing. Yes. And as you scan down the age list to about 400, we got 2,034 between the ages of 65 and 69. 4,760 to 64. Yeah, I think we're seeing the big scale, the B scale higher there. Another 4,000 in the 55 to 59. That's crazy. So we're going to back up there. That says that, what is that, like 11,000 something are eligible to retire today. And that explains an awful lot of the reason why your union and your company and all of these people out there are offering retirement support, because that's a huge chunk of our membership.
And I beg to differ. The union's offering a lot of retirement support. The company is offering some minimal retirement support on JetNet, but that's kind of like we're picking up a lot of the slack, which we shouldn't have to do, but we're doing it because we love you guys and you need the information.
And that is why the union is here. The company's here to make money for the stockholders. The union is here to protect its members. And this is one of the most important ways that we protect our members as they get ready to retire. Let's start looking at these numbers again. 34, we're at 3879, 34,025. And then look at this number, almost 1,500 under the age of 24. Wow. So yeah, kind of a W-shaped curve. That means that 11,958 of them are eligible to retire today. The number, that used to be almost an even number. We've been hiring so crazy that those last 3 or 4 buckets there, that 16,049 people are under the age of 55. But that's still a significant percentage that's eligible for retirement. Kim, what can you tell us about the seminar?
Okay, so a little housekeeping. The Good Slide handout, if you have it, follows our presentation. If you don't have it, it's available on apfa.org, the website, the retirement page, or we'll be happy to mail you a copy. Questions, you can submit them via chat, and we'll be stopping to answer questions throughout the presentation, and then we'll pick up anything we missed at the end. Checklist in our retirement packet, Good Slide. We have some very good checklists, very helpful if you're thinking about retiring in a year, 6 months, 3 months. So please refer to that if you're trying to figure out your retirement planning. It will give you a lot of information about the best time to do certain things. There's also a really good contact list, and the most important contact of all is retirement@apfa.org, where you can reach us if you have any questions. All right, so retirement, what does it really mean? Well, our retirement generally, we like to think of it as having three different components. And the first being your medical benefits. That's the main reason most of us are sticking around these days until age 65 when we become eligible for Medicare. Because guess what? All of our retiree health benefits went away as a result of various bankruptcies. The next component that we're looking at is your retirement benefits. So those are the little perks like your travel benefits, your FedEx discount, things like that. And the third basket we're looking at is your pension and 401k benefits. However, that needs to be switched to 401k/pension because these days we all have a 401k, but not everybody has a pension anymore. Another thing that got axed as the result of various bankruptcies.
There's been a lot of them, haven't there?
Yeah, too many in the airline industry. All right. So the medical benefits we often refer to as the incredibly shrinking basket because for the very reason I previously mentioned, they've shrunk to good benefits while we're active and pretty much nothing once you retire. We'll talk about options for medical benefits a little bit later in the presentation. All right, so if you're planning to retire or just thinking about the process and maybe when you're going to retire, there's some important questions you need to be asking. Number one being, what do I need to retire? What do I get in retirement? What about income? And what else do I need to research? Little details that you might not think about that you might want to check into. So that's what we're going to cover in our presentation today. So starting out with, what do you need to retire? Well, first of all, you need to be eligible. You need money, and you need to be ready. In order to be eligible for retirement, you must have at least 10 years of company seniority based on your date of hire, and your age plus your company seniority must equal 65 or more. That is what the company refers to as the 65-point plan, and that's their criteria for retirement eligibility. Also, there's a mandatory form that you need to submit to let the company know that you're going to retire. It used to be that you called your supervisor. That is no longer required. The form is located, you get there by going to Crew Portal, then click on Departments, then click on In-Flight Admin, and you will see a list of forms, and it's the very last form in the list. It says Retirement Notification. All right, money. You need money, and Patrick's going to talk about that since he's the money guy.
All right. So when you're doing long-range planning, there are two major questions you have to answer. And the first is, how much do I need to have saved on the day I retire to last me the rest of my life? That's probably one of the most common questions I get when I chat with people on the airplane. Well, how much do I need? I don't know. What else have you got? I mean, did you marry a multimillionaire and did better than I did? Or have you married to someone that doesn't seem to have an ability to hold a job? How many cats and dogs are you supporting? What other resources do you have? Did you inherit money, or are you barely making rent from paycheck to paycheck? All of those factor into how much do I need. The easy, simple answer is you figure out how much I'm going to spend each month, and then you look at what have I got coming in. I've got Social Security. I may or may not have a pension. I may or may not have other sources of income. And then what you're short, how much you still don't have, has to come out of your retirement savings. And so that's the magic number. And you definitely need to go talk to a financial planner to calculate that number, because that's what they do. Once you've got the number, you and the financial planner say, yeah, that's the goal. How much do I have to save each year from now until then? I'm hoping then is next month, but hey, from now until then, in order to reach that goal, again, that's what a financial planner is really good at helping you do. And if you're just beginning to think about this stuff and you are planning on retiring soon, you're going to have, I believe the corporate speak is, challenges, because retirement really is a long-term planning thing. One of the saddest things about financial planning that I've discovered is that most of us spend a whole lot more time planning our vacation than we plan on spending our retirement. And we will spend a lot more time in retirement than on our vacation, but that's just the way it goes. So, and my favorite slide is the one down at the bottom there. I said you held Christmas off. Yes, I love it. And the general goal is to maintain the same lifestyle you had while you were working. Now, I have a problem with that, and that I'm tired of being poor. I want to be one of those silver sneaker membered retirees jetting off to vacation to lie on the beach. But apparently that's not the goal. Apparently the goal is to maintain the same lifestyle you had while you were working. So when you're trying to do these calculations, you're going to retire at age 67. The first question you need to ask is, how long am I going to live? What? That's crazy. What do you mean, how long am I going to live? How do I know? Well, how long did your mom live? How long did your dad live? How long did your grandfather live? Those are actually surprisingly good indicators. Now, yes, we have much better medical care than they had at their age. However, the genetic predisposition to longevity is probably one of the most overwhelming factors in determining how long you're going to live. And by the way, they probably didn't fly around in an aluminum tube for decades, exposed to radiation at all. So, yeah, but that's a good step. And that becomes the first of our answers. Promise. What do you mean an answer? That's not an answer. Come on. And that's going to be the most frustrating thing about retirement planning, is that we want the number. We want the exact this, that, and the other thing. And there really isn't. What we can get is a good guess, a close approximation. We can get probabilities. I love going through my financial plan. It says, yeah, the probability of you having enough money to age 86 is, 89%. To age 89 is, 75%. And I'm like, I really would feel a lot better with 100%, but apparently that's not one of the options. So, and that becomes the first of our guesstimates. Well, let's look at it. Let's look at probabilities. Your life expectancy in 2024 is 78.4 years. 2020 had the largest decline since World War II. Thank you, COVID. Thank you, deaths of despair. Thank you, opioid epidemic. The last year in 2024 was the first year that it didn't decline in over 4 years. So we may have started to turn. Right now, I'm not sure how the 2025 numbers are coming up. It started really good in the first 6 months. The last 3 months or so, if you look at the monthly side, are not looking great. But the problem is that that's 78 for everybody, 75 for men, 81.1 for years for women. And I have no idea how you women got away with that. I mean, if we run the world, that's what everyone tells me, men run the world, then shouldn't it be the other way? Because longevity should be one of those benefits of being in charge? Apparently not.
I think it was a man that told you that.
Yeah, probably. Trying to sell me something, I'm sure. It's less for African Americans and more for Hispanics. I got all these numbers out of the National Vital Statistics Report, Volume 64, Book 6, which I want to tell you is the best cure for insomnia I have ever run across in my life. You take that on a layover, you will sleep like a baby. Yeah. And that's just the first of our guesstimates. And the problem is it's just an average. Half of us are going to die sooner and half of us are going to die later. And we all want to be in the half that dies later, but it's not how averages work. Half of us will die sooner. So I love telling the story. I started going gray in high school. I mean, it was so embarrassing. You're trying to fit in as a teenager. Here I am going gray. People would occasionally mistake me for a teacher in the hallway. It was terrible. Went home one day and said, Mom, I discovered in biology class today that this gray hair is all your fault. Everything about a man's hair comes on the mother's genes. So what's going to happen next? Am I going to go bald in college? Did any of my uncles or grandfathers or anybody go bald early? She says, oh, honey, none of them ever lived that long. Great. Good to know, Mom. Yeah, good genetic heritage. The best gift you can give your kids. So The challenge you have is half of us are going to die sooner, half of us are going to die later. There's not really a right or wrong answer. There's the what's most probable for you. Which half are you in? Because having kind of figured out which half you're in is going to drive an awful lot of really important questions. Yeah. However, that's not the only guesstimate. We've got other guesstimates because salary projections. We know salaries always go up.
If only.
If only you're not in the airline industry, for God's sakes. Now, I've been here a minute or two, but I've already had 2 different contracts where I took pay cuts. So, yeah. How about inflation? We know inflation always goes up, except for the 10 years just before we got here. Our government's working frantically at curing the inflation not going up problem, but we'll see where they get with that. Investment returns, stock market's always, yeah, not really. I didn't want to talk about that one. All right, so those are the estimates. Once you get those kind of numbers down, then you have the hardest question of all. Are you ready to retire?
Maybe.
Maybe. And the thing is, you need to be ready. We talked to an awful lot of retirees here in the retiree department when the companies found some new way to screw them. And we fix their problem or get as much of an approximation as we can to a fix. And then before they hang up and say, wait a minute, I got a question for you. Did you retire at the right time? Was it good for you? Like 98, 99% were like, oh, it's the best thing I ever did. I don't know why I ever waited. I don't know how I ever had time to go to work. My life is so full. I've got to go because Sissy's waiting for me.
I got to play pickleball.
I got to go play pickleball. Yeah, fine. I don't want to talk to you now. I'm going to talk to the 1 or 2% that aren't happy. And almost universally, they are not happy because they didn't plan. They took the sudden out. Sudden out? Yeah, that's where your supervisor and the union rep meet you on the jet bridge. And the union rep says, you're walking up the jet bridge, I got your retirement. I recommend you take it. Or your doctor says, no, can't go back. Or you have to be home to take care of someone. You can't go back. You didn't pick the time to leave. It picked you. And therefore, you didn't get time to plan. And those are the people that are most unhappy and struggle the most. I have got great news for you. You are here listening to this because you are planning. You are going to be in the 98, 99% that are happy with what they did. So if you reach that point, I don't know, you have to answer that question. What flight attendants? So, I mean, we'll ask our buddy bidder, we'll ask our sister, we'll ask that non-rev on the jump seat we've never seen and will never see again. And because they all love you and want the best for you, they will give you the answer that's best for them because they don't know what's best for you. And it's like the money and the age numbers. It's going to be a best guess, best estimate. Is this right for me? And the good news is for most people it is. Have you reached that point? Only you can tell. How and when? All right, how? Mandatory notification form. All right, we have this mandatory notification form. It's on crew portal, departments, in-flight admin forms. It used to be on the tablet. It may be back there now, but it's not there right now. So if you're electing the RHRA, we will talk more about that later. But that's where you're going to put your sick bank into an account. You get half the value credited to an RHRA account to spend later. You have to give 4 months notice on this form. If you're not taking the RHA, no notice required. I'll fill out the form because they have now fixed it so that the form starts all that stuff in the background about converting you to a retiree, putting you in the retiree JetNet, blah, blah, blah. All right. This is what the form looks like. Yeah, it looks like almost every other form here at American Airlines.
And you don't print it out, it's submitted online.
Yes.
And if you look at the top where, does that show submit retirement and rescind retirement or not? Is that
yes, it does.
So everybody asks, what if I change my mind? If you look there, you'll see 2 options, submit retirement and rescind retirement. So if you put it in, it's not locked in, you can change your mind still. A lot of flight attendants do change their minds. Some are sure and some kind of are on the fence for a while. So I've had people put in the form and rescind it multiple times, and that's not a problem up until the day that you put in for your retirement, then it's too late. But you can rescind it prior to that day. And I would not probably try to do it like at midnight on the night before.
No,
Just-
I would
just
say
to be
midnight
sure.
the day before, so you've
Yeah.
got, that 24
A
hour
couple of
buffer.
days before, for
Yeah.
sure, you can resend it.
However, do notice that if you submit this form and then you rescind and you put it back in, you have restarted your 4-month clock.
For the RHRA.
Yeah, we can't go back to your original, that you restart. So if you rescind it, make sure you've got enough runway to change your mind again later. All right, notice requirements. If you want to put 50% of the value of your sick time into an RHR, you must submit the retirement notification form at least 4 months in advance of your retirement date. If you don't want the RHRA, no specific notice required. Just, I'm out of here. Bye. Except fill out the form. 2 weeks to 30 days notice is suggested, but not required. Why do we suggest that? This company takes forever to do anything. I mean, how long have you had to fight for like understaffing pay that you were clearly eligible for? It just takes a long time in the background. So just to make your life easier, give them, 2 weeks to
Also,
30
if you
days
give
notice.
30 weeks, I mean, 30 days,
weeks.
not 30 weeks, 30 days notice, for planning and so on, knowing how many flight attendants are going to be available in
Yeah.
December and who's going to retire on December 1st. It's a little bit of help for the planners and so on.
Yeah.
If-
And that helps the rest of us.
That rest of the flight attendants with the bid sheet and all that.
Yeah. And there's this, you think RHR, I've heard that before. Yes, you can get on RHR if you're in the plus plan. And if you have that RHR in the plus plan, that one's done. That's in the bag. You don't have to give 4 weeks notice to keep that one, or 4 months notice to keep that one. That's yours. You just have to give the 4 months notice to get the new RHRA that's funded from your sick bank. All
Correct.
right. Questions? Kim, what do we got?
Okay, so we have one about the 65-point plan. Who can I talk to help determine the first eligible date that I can retire? Well, you can call Team Member Services 1-800-447-2000 and follow the prompts for the retirement services, and someone there will tell you when you'll be eligible for the 65-point plan. But there's an easier way than going through the phone menu and everything. You log on to JetNet, scroll down below all of the, news and fluff and little feel-good articles they have on there, and then you'll see Team Member Services on JetNet. There's a little box that says retirement. You click on that, and you'll see a 65-point plan calculator. And you put in your employee number, and it will calculate when you're eligible, if you're already eligible for the 65-point plan, or when you will be eligible for the 65-point plan. So that's really the easiest way. All right, next question. I heard through the grapevine that if I want to retire, it's best to do it January 1st or after, as opposed to earlier, such as in October, November, or December. That way I can earn my 35 days of vacation for the following year. Well, yes, anytime you retire, you're going to be paid out for all of your accrued vacation. So if you retire at the beginning of November, you'll get paid out for 10 months of vacation, because that's how much you will have accrued for that calendar year. If you retire at the end of the year, you will be paid out for all of the days of your vacation. So if it's just the vacation, getting the full 35 days, if you're at that level of vacation accrual, then obviously January 1st is the best day to retire. There might be other reasons you want to retire in, say, November 1st or December 1st. You want to retire before the holiday flying hits or things like that. So there's a variety of different reasons that might influence the date that you want to retire. But if your priority is getting a full year's worth of vacation, then you would want to be active through the end of the year, and you'll get paid out for your full vacation accrual for that 12 months.
It's kind of the ultimate getting Christmas off.
Yeah.
Leave. Now, I've also heard that one of the things for January 1st might have to do with healthcare, the deductible.
Another good reason, to retire is you want to finish off your AA healthcare, on December 31st, and then start with Medicare or whatever new healthcare you're going to go to on January 1st. So you'll have a full year of meeting your, deductibles and out of pockets and so on. You won't have to change for a new plan. You'll just change at the beginning of a new plan year with something different.
Oh, so there's a lot of different reasons to pick different dates. So
Right. It
it would be so nice if they would just all line up, but no.
The
Okay,
best
here's another
thing is to do what's best for you.
Yeah.
You know.
Here's another question for Kim. On the retirement notification form, ask for retirement date. Do I put in the last day of the month? Do I put in the first? How do I know which date to put on the form?
Well, generally speaking, and this does not apply to everyone, but keep in mind that your there's rumors out there that if I retire, say on the 15th, my health benefits are going to continue through the end of the month. That is not correct. Your health benefits will end on midnight of your last day as an active employee. A lot of people who are retiring are going to start Medicare, and Medicare only starts on the first day of a calendar month. So if I retire on the 15th, and then I'm going to start Medicare on the first of the next month, that's going to leave me with 2 weeks that I'm not covered by insurance. And you may be comfortable with that. I'm not. So I'm going to retire on the first of, for instance, October. If I do that, my benefits are going to end at midnight on September 30th. I'll be retired on October 1st. My Medicare will start on October 1st. I'm good to go. There's no period that I don't have coverage. So that's one of the main reasons that people retire on the first of a calendar month. And another reason is if you have a pension, your pensions will begin on the first of a calendar month. It only pays out on the first of each calendar month. So
if I understood that right, the date I'm putting on that form is the first day of my retirement, not the last day of my employment.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Okay, now I guess I'll take this one. I'm 55. I've been with the company long enough for the 65-point plan, so I'm eligible to retire. But because of health issues, I'm considering retiring now. Is there a possibility to request an accommodation, perhaps to another department, and continue working? If you retire, are you eligible to apply for another position in the future? Okay, there's a couple of things in there I'm going to unpack. One is retiring, and one is starting your pension. Because I think I'm hearing in there some question about
being accommodating in another
and
position.
a third is the accommodation for an ability. So on the first one, you can apply to another department as a internal transfer virtually at any time, and the accommodation you require doesn't get you a plus in that new department. But once you're in that department, they may be obligated to have an accommodation for your disability.
And there are some people at the company, they're called what are they called? Let's see. I have this person's name. They're called people business partners. So if you are thinking, hey, I can't do my flight attendant job, that's a safety sensitive, very physically demanding job, and I would like to seek some other position that's maybe a little bit more sedentary, you can call your supervisor and say, hey, who is my people business partner? Please give me the name of my people business partner so I can reach out to them and see if there's any way I can be reaccommodated in another position at the company. They are supposed to let you know what's available and help you set up interviews and so on, if that's what you would like to do. So,
and by staying in the company, you keep your company medical, which is really, really important, particularly if you're having health issues.
And your date of hire seniority.
And your date of hire stays there, and everything that drives, like your vacation and sick accrual and everything.
I don't know, that may be different for different departments. Yeah, some things are going to be different. Some things are going to be starting from the ground up and, obviously whatever scheduling or bidding. I don't know if everybody bids in other departments, but you're going to be starting from the ground up as far as that goes. But
yeah, if you've ever wondered why in your HI8 it's got all those different seniority dates, because you may have a seniority date within flight attending, which controls your bidding, which is totally separate from what it would be if, say, you became a ground agent or now in a new bidding pool. So that's why there's multiple dates that are really interesting. And then I mentioned briefly pensions. You can't draw your pension as a flight attendant while you're working in another department. As long as you're an active employee with the company, even if you started your pension and then went back to work, came as a new hire in some other department, they will suspend that pension. So you can't be an active employee and pretend to be a retired employee for either travel or pensions. All right.
Oh, and then I think there was a
Oh,
couple
another one?
more for this one. If I retire in January, is that this one or no, that's not this one.
That's the next one.
That's the next one. Okay, we're good.
All right. So
Moving right along.
Kim, can you tell me what I get in retirement?
Okay, what do you get in retirement? Basically, you get your travel privileges. These are the things that are linked to your 65-point plan eligibility, the supposed perks of being a retiree. You get paid out for your vacation and your sick time. Yay. You get the option to elect the RHRA if you're eligible for the 65-point plan. You get a retirement gift. Fabulous. Yay. You get the status of being a retiree, a flight attendant retiree, not just any retiree. And you get the option to purchase some really expensive medical insurance if you are between the ages of 55 and 65 and not yet eligible for Medicare. So let's start with the travel. You basically get your D1, you still get those D1s, and you notice there's not an R after the D1. So you get the same amount of D1s that you do as an active employee once you retire. You get D2R, D2P, D3, AA20, and 20% off all Advantage tickets. All non-rev travels booked through non-rev travel planner, but the only difference is it's through the retiree site. So once you retire, you are no longer allowed access to JetNet. Boom, you'll be switched over to the retirees website, which is www.retirees.aa.com. And that's where you will go for travel, to see your pay history, all that good stuff. So on travel, your service charges and taxes are charged to your credit card, just like they are now. And obviously, if you have a D3 traveling, make them use their own credit card, so you don't have to pay for that. The Z travel is booked through My ID Travel in the AA Retirees website and works the same way as it does on JetNet. And unfortunately, and this is a big sticker for a lot of people, but no more jump seat authority. Kill me now, and no KCM. So it's not going to have to stand in line with all the regular travelers, and hopefully have the TSA. Sometimes that line is longer than the regular line these days. But anyway, non-rev friendly travel agencies do exist, such as Perks. It used to be Perks and Dargal, but they merged, so Perks, and there's lots of other places that give airline retiree travel discounts. So good to check around. There is a deals and discounts link on the retiree site where you can see who gives retirees travel industry discounts. And it never hurts to ask if you're going somewhere. All right, sick time and vacation. Your unused sick time is paid out at a rate of $8.65 per sick hour. That is highway robbery. It is always better to use your sick time for a legitimate, illness or absence while you're still working. That's your best bang for your buck.
Yeah. The good news is even though you should not call in sick unless you're sick, you don't get to be outraged without something being wrong with you.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so all unused. So unused vacation means vacation that you have bid for, but you haven't used yet, and accrued vacation, which you've been earning during the calendar year that you haven't even bid for yet. All vacation is paid out at the contractual rate of 4 hours per day at your rate of pay. Your vacation, when you get paid out for it after retirement, is not eligible for the AA employer 401k match and contribution. However, it is eligible for the employee election. So if you elect to, for instance, put right before you get paid out for your vacation, change your 401k elections to 100%, you can put 100% of that vacation payout into your 401k, as long as you haven't maxed out, obviously. And defer the tax liability. You can take it out in smaller chunks and so on, if that is something that you would like to do.
So you just said.
Okay, I said the pro tip already. All right, retiree health reimbursement arrangement, RHRA. We've talked a little bit about this, but we're going to give you a few more details. In order to qualify for the RHRA, you have to be eligible for the 65-point plan. You must notify the company at least 4 months in advance in order to put 50% of the full value of your accumulated sick hours into the RHRA. Now, does this mean I'm going to put 50% of the sick hours in the RHRA and I'm still going to have 50% to use? Doesn't work that way. You use as many of your sick hours as you need until your retirement date. At that point, if you elected the RHRA and gave sufficient notice, they're going to calculate your RHRA credit based on 50% of the value of the sick time that is left in your sick bank. Still a good deal. It goes in tax. It goes in pre-tax, and it certainly beats being paid out at $8.65 per sick hour.
Absolutely.
The RHRA is a notional account, which means it's not actual money in the account sitting there that you could pull out and do something else with. It's credit for reimbursement for eligible health expenses. The RHRA is administered by Fidelity, and they have information about how to use it. It's pretty much similar to using your FSA while you're an active employee. There's a list of eligible expenses on the IRS website, and there's probably a link to that on the AA benefits website and Fidelity as well. All right, you get a retirement gift. We mentioned that before. About 60 to 90 days. It keeps varying, so I've given them a wide window, but it used to be 60 days. For a while it was 30 days. Now it's more like 90 days. So after you retire, not right away, you will be getting a retirement gift catalog. You do not have to ask your supervisor to send this, because when you submit the retirement notification form, an email will be sent to the outsourced company that sends out these catalogs, and they'll have your name and it will be processed after you retire. So you don't need to ask your supervisor unless for some reason 90 days after you've retired you haven't received it yet. You can try and reach your supervisor to find out what the heck is going on and where your gift catalog is. The catalog comes with a commemorative certificate of your years of service. It's frameable, it's kind of nice, and options include for gifts a wide array of some nice things, some dust collectors, depends on your taste, glass plaques, jewelry. Somebody ordered a champagne bucket. What else have I heard recently? Give yourself a gift. Oh, another pro tip that we have is give yourself a gift by using your nonstop thanks before you retire, because after you retire, it's too late. So use all those, buy yourself a gift, get some gift cards so you can get yourself a gift later, but definitely use the nonstop thanks points. And then here's another example of one of the retired gifts, the crystal tail. This is a popular one.
A pretty tail is always important.
Very important. All right, your status will be changing. And some people don't relate to this one, but Patrick and I do. So you're going to be going from Sky Goddess to Cat Rancher, because, you know, that's what both Patrick and I aspire to.
Absolutely.
We have some plans with lots of kitties and maybe other animals when we retire. We're going to
no people.
love dogs. It used to be love people, love to travel. Now it's like love cats and dogs.
Tolerate
people and tolerate people and travel. No, just joking. But anyway, your status will be changing, and it's a bit of an adjustment, but it'll be fun. So your retirees submit an online request for a retiree ID. So they don't just send you. It would be nice if they just sent you a retiree ID after you retire, but they don't. You have to submit a request. This can be done in JetNet prior to your retirement in that retirement section of team member services, or after your retirement. There's a link on the retiree's website up in the right-hand corner. It says need a retiree ID. Click here and you fill out the form and upload a beautiful picture of yourself and submit it online. You use it for discounts on shipping, hotels, car rentals. It is not required in order to travel. So you don't need the retiree ID in order to use your non-rev benefits. Government issued photo ID is what is required for your travel. So your passport, driver's license, make sure it's a real ID. They're starting to check that these days. Passport is a real ID, by the way. And access to the retiree site is one of the perks of having the retiree status. The retirees website is www.retirees.aa.com. And again, that's where you go for anything you need as an American Airlines retiree. Your payroll information will be accessible there. Archives of old payroll systems if you still need that information. And your detailed sequence history will not be available. So if you'd like that information, you should print it up before you retire. All right. Sometimes people can't quite make the retirement, the 65 point plan eligibility, and they need to retire. So what do? Basically, you can just quit if you've had enough and you really don't want to make it that far, or for some reason you just have to retire sooner. Or leave the company sooner before you become eligible to be a retiree. You basically notify your manager that you're going to resign your flight attendant position, and your vacation pay is contractual, so that will still be paid out at the contractual rate. If you're LAA and you qualify for a pension, you will need to contact Fidelity to find out when and where you can start to draw those pension benefits. If you're LUS and you have a PBGC pension and you're not already taking it, you will need to contact the PBGC for that information. Since you're not qualifying for the 65 point plan, unfortunately, you will not be able to get paid out for your sick time or elect the RHRA. Those are both linked to the 65 point plan eligibility. All right, any questions?
Yes. Okay, this is for you. If I retire in January 2026, when will I receive my final W-2 from payroll department for the year 2025?
When do you usually receive those? Like
February 10th.
January, yeah. They're supposed to mail them out for the end of January.
Yeah, and it's not a special cycle. Even if you retire in July, you don't get the W-2 until the regular cycle at the end of January. All right.
Because you could be retiring and doing another job, and you do your taxes based on all of your income information. So.
Okay. Question about travel. My registered companion. Do they still get my benefits flying, and are we allowed to change our registered companion yearly if we want to? And how do I get a retiree card? You already did the retiree card.
Yeah, we did the retiree card. Now your registered companion and all of your listed travelers will just transfer over to the retiree site. So when you go to non-rev travel planner on the retiree site, all of your travelers will be in there. And yes, after you retire, they're not frozen. You can change them. Obviously, if you list a new D3 or something, they're going to have to be in there, for 6 months before you can change them. But you are allowed to make changes after you retire. Don't like that registered companion anymore? Change it to a new one.
If I retire in January 2026, will I be paid for the accrued vacation for 2025 and any other of my days not used in 2025 from the prior year?
Yes, you bid for them in 2025, but I'm assuming that they're in February and March of 2026, but they were part of the amount you bid for in 2025. So that would be your bid vacation that you haven't used. You will be paid out for all of that, and you will be paid out for a full 12 months of accrued vacation if you retire on January 1st, and you were active every month during the calendar year in order to accrue the vacation.
All right. Do I have to use my RHRA within a certain amount of time? Does the RHRA expire?
The RHRA does not expire as long as you have money in it. So it expires once you've used up all the money, basically. So there's not a time limit on using the funds in the RHRA. You can use them over 10 years. You can use them all in 1 year if something happens and you need, that money for your health care. So no, the RHRA doesn't expire until the money's gone.
All right. If I take the vacation buyback in June, can I then retire and still get the accrued vacation from this year?
Yes, you can. So if you take the vacation buyback, well, no, yeah, if you take the vacation buyback in June, that would be for the amount you've accrued for the prior year. And so you would still get January through June or July or whenever you retire of accrued vacation paid out. In addition, obviously not when you get the vacation buyback in June, but when you retire.
All right. So this is kind of a compound question. I have already signed up for Medicare, which means I can no longer contribute to my HSA.
Are we jumping ahead?
Is this vacation sick pay?
Okay.
There's a bunch down at the bottom. I've already signed up for Medicare, which means I can no longer contribute to an HSA as an active employee. But I still want to convert my remaining sick time into an RHRA. Is that possible?
Yes. The RHRA is not like Medicare. You can't contribute to an HSA. Those rules do not apply to this notional account, which is the RHRA. So you can still contribute to an RHRA even if you're signed up for Medicare.
All right. And I think you just answered this question, but we'll ask it again. I'm planning to retire in January. How many vacation days will I get paid for?
It depends on where you are. If you're a 12-year flight attendant or a 5-year, or, it depends on where you are on the accrual scale, but you'll get paid out for your full 12 months worth of vacation accrual as long as you worked and were active in all those months in order to accrue vacation.
All right. I think that's it on vacation and pay and sick pay.
Okay, moving right along.
Moving right along.
What's next?
Let's talk about income.
Oh, that's so important. Let's talk
Yes.
about income.
Okay. In retirement, obviously money is going to be one of those important things because it pretty much drives everything in our lives, doesn't it? So in retirement, you hopefully will have multiple sources of income. You're going to have your 401k. You're going to have, hopefully you've got an IRA. You're going to have your Social Security. You're going to have savings, and savings may have some funny looks that you don't necessarily think of when you think of savings. And if you have one, you're going to have a pension. And the really cool thing is you've got all 5 of those streams of income. It's kind of like having a 5-legged stool. It's very stable. And that's important because if something happens to one of those legs, say Congress screws up again and you lose Social Security or some portion of it, that's going to really hurt. But if you've got these 5 different streams of income, it's not as bad as if
They
you
better
just,
not, Patrick.
yeah, they better
not.
They wouldn't do that.
They better
Oh,
not.
wait, didn't they already do that? Social Security retirement age is 65, except back when Ronald Reagan was president, they were trying to balance the budget, and I put that in air quotes because that's all they were doing was making up words. And they did that by making the age for eligibility for Social Security, your normal retirement age, further and further down. So now it's 67. They figured that by the time we figured out how much they'd screwed us, they'd be dead. And they're right, but I'm still pissed at
But
it.
we figured it out, and now that they're talking about raising it to 70 or something, we need to let them know we don't like that idea.
Yeah, not a good thing.
Not a good idea.
But every time I look at this list, I am so happy that I belong to a union that actually cares about my future and has worked hard to make sure that we have all of these various options out there. And I contrast that with the over 50% of people on Social Security that's all they've got. My God, how secure is your financial life if your entire financial future depends on the good graces of the U.S. Congress? God help us. All right. Hey, what about my 401k loan? Well, the first option is you continue to pay back the loan on your current amortization schedule or pay it off entirely. You no longer have a paycheck to have it come out of, so they will have you come up and set up an ACH deduction from your checking account.
I think that's the best option.
That's probably the best option, yeah. And then the second option is you just stop making payments and they go, hey, we're going to treat that as a withdrawal. Well, darn. The problem is if you're not at 59 and a half, you not only have to pay taxes on it now, but you have to pay a penalty. If you're over 59.5, you still have to pay taxes on it. And oh, by the way, you're not going to be accruing any income on that money because it's now no longer going back in your 401k. So one last thing to remember, your 401k will freeze solid for the first 30 days of retirement after the company leave the company. So if you need money in that first 30 days out of your 401k, you may want to consider rolling some of it out before you actually leave so that you have access to it. I also want to point out that if you need money out of your 401k in the first 30 days of retirement, you may not quite be ready to retire. I would suggest you talk to a financial planner before you make any next steps. Oh, you've got other things you can do. You can roll your 401k into an IRA. That may be a great idea. It may be a terrible idea. I recommend that you talk to a financial planner that you know how they're getting paid, because the ones that are doing it for free aren't doing it for free. They're getting money out of you some way or another. Or you can, but I think the most popular one is leave it and manage it through Fidelity like you do now. It's a very large 401k. I mean, we've got, 160,000 members. And so the costs averaging gets way low. We're paying less than $100 a year for account management services on our 401k. And if you look at any of the other ones out there, that's a really good price.
It seems like there's a lot of rumors out there that you are required or you have to roll your 401k into something else when you retire, and that is not correct. So just keep in mind, you don't have to roll it into anything else. If you want to roll it into something else, make sure you understand what you're rolling it into and the implications. And there's not a timeline, so you can wait and make your decisions based on talking to some qualified financial planners that you trust.
Yeah, and there are differences. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's look at the IRAs. IRAs are pre-tax and post-tax. We call it the Roth IRA, and that's very much like the 401k. You've got the pre-tax 401k and the Roth 401k. One of the differences with IRAs is that there are income limits. And for 2025, if you make more than 150,000 as a single or 236,000 as married filing jointly, you can't make contributions to your IRA. They just say, nope, that's, take the money back out because that's not a tax deductible contribution. I had a neighbor call me the other day and he was all pissed off because they made him take his money back out of his IRA for 2024. I'm like, you're a little late on your taxes. But, and I said, that's because you made too much money. Try me a river. The other thing you can do is the conversion, like we were talking. And like I say, it may be a good idea, it may be a terrible idea. We tend to think of, they're both tax deferred accounts, they're all kind of the same thing. They're really not. That the IRA is a product of state law and the 401k is a product of federal law. And that means the rules are different. And the rules are different on how people inherit that money. The rules are different when someone sues you or you owe people money. And like, for instance, my 401k as an ERISA covered plan is 100% protected from creditors trying to get my money. My IRA depends on where I live. I think it's Michigan that says you get to keep the first 50,000 in your IRA and, the person suing you gets the rest. So,
yikes.
Yeah, you want to make sure you know what you're doing. It may be a great idea. It may be a terrible idea. So, Kim, questions?
Okay, questions about 401k IRA. All right, let's see. What happens with my 401k when we retire? I would want to keep it with Fidelity. Do we convert it to an IRA? Can we convert it to an IRA before we retire? I will not be at the meeting. I will listen to the recording.
Well, hello, anonymous person on the recording. So here's your answer. You can leave it with Fidelity and you can leave it in the 401k. Fidelity also has an IRA product. I haven't seen very many motivations to convert to the Fidelity IRA, but if you have a good reason to convert to an IRA and you want to live it with Fidelity because it's really easy to manage it through them, yeah, you can do that. But most people that leave it with Fidelity leave it in the 401k. And yeah.
The question about converting it prior to your retirement, if you're over age 59 and a half and eligible to start taking distributions, you can do that conversion prior to your retirement.
Yes.
Okay, next question is, let's see. How do I go about rolling my current AA 401k balance to a Roth IRA? I was told, where'd that one go? I was told to do this to avoid IRMA. And what is IRMA? Higher Medicare premiums. She got it there, he or she. Plan to retire at 67 and would be 65 in November.
Okay. Couple of things
There's
to
a lot
unpack
in
in there. Okay. IRMA. What is IRMA? IRMA, your Medicare Part B premiums are set every year. The Medicare department publishes a chart and says most people are going to pay, what is it, $176 this year, or something like that, for their Part B premiums, unless you made more money. And I should have looked this up in advance. If you make more, and I want to say it's over 186,000, some number up there. Most of us don't make that, but if you do, then and they look at the last 2 years to determine what your average income is, then you will pay a higher Part B premium, and it's substantially higher, like $500 a month instead of $183. So yeah, if you need to do things to avoid IRMA, that might be it. Rolling your 401k into an IRA is a taxable event. So for that year, your taxable income will be substantially higher, whatever the balance in your 401k is. So that may not actually help to avoid IRMA. It may create problems. You should know that if you stumble into an IRMA problem, and where we saw this was people that got a buyout. They had their full regular flight attendant income, and then they got also, 6 months of pay or whatever it was on top of it, and all of a sudden they stumbled into IRMA. And you will want to talk to a financial planner, but there are some things you can do, one of which is it's the IRS. So there's a form. And there's a form you can fill out that says, hey, this was weird. I don't normally make this much money. And you can request that they look at a bigger window, and you may avoid IRMA that way. But
I think it's some kind of an appeal form.
Yeah, it's an appeal form. There may be reasons to roll it to a Roth. I'm going to leave that between you and your financial advisor. I could opine at length and get slapped over here. So no, I'm not going to do that. But yeah, doing it to avoid IRMA probably isn't going to get you where you're trying to go.
Okay, next, can I defer my RMDs, which stands for required minimum distributions for the 401k, when I turn 73, if I'm still working?
Great question. And the answer is, did you convert it to an IRA? No. If it's in your 401k, yes. That's one of those other differences between a 401k and an IRA. 401k, there's no required minimum distributions from the plan that belongs to your current employer.
While you're still working.
While you're still working for them.
Right.
Yeah. So if you have a plan from a prior employer, even though you're still working for American at age 75, you will be required to take minimum distributions from that prior plan. But for your American Airlines 401k plan, there's no required minimum distributions as long as you're an active employee. If you have an IRA, like at age 65, you converted to an IRA like this prior person had talked about, then you have RMDs even if you're still actively working, which, because you've got a full income and now your RMDs on top of it, you will really run into income tax issues. So yeah, that's one of those good reasons to keep it in a 401k until you actually need to move it out, and probably never.
And I know a couple of people that are still working that are in that situation. One's in their late 70s and one's in their early 80s, and they're both they haven't started taking anything out of their 401k yet because they're still working.
Yeah.
Okay, another one about I guess I've been penalized for working during my Social Security years. They told me that I did not pay taxes for Social Security, so I have to pay back pay, which is not true. I was paying taxes all that time. I'm not sure I'm explaining this correctly. I retired in 2020.
Okay.
I flew about 32 years, and I was then 73, I guess, at retirement time.
Yeah.
And this person misses their flight attendant job.
Yeah. That's one of those, are you really ready to retire question. I'm actually going to delay answering that because we do talk about Social Security taxation in the next section. So let's hold off on that one until the next one.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. This one, it's about Medicare, so I think we wait on
Do 19.
do 19. 19, okay. After retirement, do I keep access to discounted hotel and car bookings on Biz Hero? Also, do I keep access to deals and discounts on JetNet? Well, I know part two to that question is you do keep access to most of the deals and discounts. There may be a few people that offer the deals and discounts to active employees, but not retirees, but most of those will transfer over. The Biz Hero question, I don't know that answer, but we will try and find out. So check on the Biz Hero.
All right. Speaking of Social Security, Kim, what can you tell us about Social Security?
Okay, I'm writing down this so I remember to check on Biz Hero.
All right.
Okay, Social Security. Never thought I'd be talking about this.
Oh my God, I feel like
I never thought I'd be thinking about this. It's awful, but I'm actually not that far away from it. Yikes. Okay, so Social Security may be taken as early as age 62, as late as age 70. There's no increase after the age of 70. So if you're still working and you're 70, start taking it, even if you just put it in an account and save it for later, because, you know, there's no benefit to leaving money sitting there on the table when you've earned it. Their website is www.ssa.gov, and there is a lot of useful information on their website. We recommend you go there. A little confusing because it's still Social Security, but useful to go there nonetheless. Married couples have some complicated decisions about when and how to draw their Social Security. There are Social Security advisors and apps to show you how to optimize your Social Security benefits. And if you're a geek like Patrick, you might want to use some of those. But back to the married couples, I mean, if you're single, you have about 9 different options. So multiply that if you're married, you know, 81 possible options for taking your Social Security. That's way too complicated for me to figure out. I'm going to call a Social Security expert. And how to find a Social Security expert kind of varies. You know, some states make it really easy to find a Social Security. They have like Ship or Shine or things like that that are supposed to help you get that kind of advice. You kind of just have to troll around on the internet, Google it, and also go to a senior center in your area, and they should be able to tell you about some local resources for that. Early Social Security at age 62. Okay, so there's a lot of people that think, I'm going to start my Social Security early at age 62. Why wait? Well, there are some pros and cons to that, so let's discuss those. Basically, one pro is that if you start early, you're going to get more years of payments. Another pro is that if you need to retire early, you know, earlier than you intended, then you can get the money if you need it. So if you need it and you have to retire between age 62 and age 67, or whenever your full Social Security age is, you need the money, go ahead and start it, you know. A con is that you're going to get lower payments for the rest of your life, because if you take it early, that sets your rate of Social Security other than cost of living increases. Another con is that it is subject to income limits until you hit your full SSNRA, which means your Social Security normal retirement age. So between 62 and 67, for instance, you would be subject to income limits. Basically, for 2025, you can earn up to $23,400, which isn't really that much. I mean, if we're flying the hard 40 as flight attendants, we make more than that at the top of the pay scale. So, and above that limit, you deduct $1 worth of benefits for every $2 of earned income over that limit. So keep that in mind. You could get dinged if you start early Social Security while you're still working. Break-even point for taking early Social Security versus regular Social Security is the average age of death. And again, we go back to that question that Patrick posed at the beginning. When are you going to die? Nobody knows, unfortunately. So you gotta kind of base it on your family history and how healthy you are and so on. So here's a chart that sort of illustrates that point. The blue line is someone that starts their Social Security early at age 62. The red line at age 66 and however many months. And when do the lines cross? The average age of death, age 78 point something, right? So if you think you're gonna live longer than that average age, maybe take it at the full Social Security age. If you're retiring early and have health issues or something, or a family history that indicates otherwise, you might or might not, but that's what you kind of look at when you're making those decisions. All right, full Social Security at Social Security normal retirement age. There are special limits for the year that you reach your Social Security normal retirement age. So for the months before your birthday month, the limit on earnings is a little bit bigger because they know a lot of people work and then they hit their full retirement age, and then so they increase the limits on earnings from work. For 2025, that limit is 62,160. And a lot of people go, when is my Social Security normal retirement age? We're quickly approaching the age that for everybody going forward, it will be 67, but we're not quite there yet. So if you look, if you're hired before 1960, it's going to be 66 and however many months. If you're hired 1960 and later, for everybody at this point, it's age 67. All right. What counts as earnings for Social Security?
Patrick? You should ask, because we've been sitting here talking about earnings. And also you made the comment about at 40 hours, I'm going to be way over that 23,000 with our new pay raise starting on October 1st. Thank you, APFA negotiating team. With our new pay raise, 40 hours a month, and if you just keep it at 40, no birdie on it, is $40,000. So you're going to be way over the limit. It's going to be darn near impossible to start early and not be paying the penalty. But when you say earnings, Patrick, what are you talking about? Well, earnings include income from wages or net earnings from self-employment, a little side hustle you've got going. They also include bonuses, commissions, severance pay, anything that you're getting money from as a result of your efforts, work. So here's the good part. Earnings do not include investment income, pensions, capital gains, inheritance. Thus, dividends and capital gains won't negatively affect your Social Security benefits, even if you decide to file earlier than your full retirement age. Oh, we've got somebody we may have to go over and click on that thing because it's showing on the internet.
What do we click on?
Please hold, please wait.
Technical difficulty, please. Excuse,
To say.
Josh, help. If you're monitoring us, help. Oh no, now you went back to the beginning. Yay.
All right. No. We are here.
Thanks for being patient, everyone. Something popped up, so we're trying to.
Let it pop up, and I think that's the zero. Yeah, from this slide. I can't remember that Shift F5 or F5. So thank you.
Thank you. Josh saved the day again.
Ta-da! Oh, taxes on Social Security. So,
we talked about that one. I did that one, and then you did what counts as income for Social Security. I think that's that right, or are we?
No, I think we're a couple slides there. It counts as earnings. So the next one should be. Oh yeah, no.
Yes, I did that one. So we're here. Yeah.
Okay,
right.
Earnings.
We're back where
we're back. Yes. All right. And so the thing that you can be having all this income that's not going to affect you if you are drawing early before full Social Security age, if it's one of these types of income. So taxes on Social Security. Good news. The first 15% of your Social Security is tax-free. So even Bill Gates doesn't have to pay tax on the first 15% of his Social Security. How much of the rest of your Social Security is or is not taxable depends on your other income. So here's the slide that shows you that if you made between 0 and 25,000 or 0 to 32 on joint, 0% of your Social Security is taxable. If you make 25 to 34, 50% of Social Security is taxable, not at the 50% rate, but they only include half of your Social Security as taxable income. And if you made more than 34,000, then that whole 85% is taxable, because remember, the first 15% is not taxable. So that's federal. Is there state tax on Social Security? Well, it depends. In 37 states, your Social Security is tax-free. 13 states do tax some or all of your Social Security. Boo! Who are those bad boys? That these people right here. Sadly, several of those are really
nice places.
Really nice places to live in retirement. So, yeah, when you're thinking about, well, I am going to get out of Dodge and go to my retirement happy place, you might want to take a look at this list. And remember this, because we're going to come back to this list in a minute. The places that your taxes may change drastically based on where you live. Now that's Social Security. Savings. Savings have some weird things. I mean, in addition to, stocks and bonds, you may have some hidden savings. For instance, home equity. And I don't mean like a reverse mortgage, because I hate those things. I mean like, taking a home equity line of credit. That's one thing. The best way to tap into your home equity is to downsize. Sell that 4-bedroom, 3,000 square foot house that you really don't need. Move into a nice townhome where someone else mows the lawn. You liberate a whole bunch of home equity that you can put into your savings and live off of that if you need. Life insurance. And by that, I mean cash value. Now, remember, there are two types of life insurance. There's the kind where you pay money, and if you don't die, you're done. If you die, you win. Wait, what? Oh,
somebody wins.
Somebody wins, yeah. And then that's called, that's term.
And that's what we have from American Airlines. Our American Airlines life insurance does not accumulate a cash value.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I'm not going to die. I don't care.
Yeah, no, even if I win, I die. Yeah, no. And the second is called whole life. It has a couple of different names, but that's where you accumulate cash value within that life insurance. And, it's going to be a couple of bucks a month, but if you can do that for 30 or 40 years, there may be some actual heavy duty cash value in there that you can get. And no, in response to that question we got, I'm not talking about whether or not your spouse dies mysteriously and you've got a good alibi. Okay. Sorry, savings.
Who would ask such a question?
I know. I think I flew with her last month. But anyway, okay. So those are those. Let's look at pensions. Kim, what can you tell us about pensions?
Okay. So if you have a pension, it will depend on where and which carrier you started your career with, as far as how and when you can start your pension. So we've got the Legacy US Airways folks, and if they have a pension, they could have started out at any number of different carriers. And the Legacy AA folks also. So here's some of the places you might have started your career. PSA, Allegheny, Piedmont, US Airways, or Trump Shuttle. Basically, if you started with any of those, you're going to have a little bit of variation on when and how you can start your pension. So those pensions are all held by the PBGC. And if you started with the shuttle, your early pension age is age 52. Your late pension age is age 62. For every pension we're going to discuss here today, there is a 3% per year reduction if you start your pension prior to the full pension age in any category. And that's just kind of across the board. So with Piedmont, Allegheny, and US Airways, your early pension age is age 50, your full pension age 62. You can start while you're still working with any of these because they're held by the PBGC and not American Airlines. So if you want to do that, you can. You just contact the PBGC. If you're PSA, early pension age is age 55. And the full pension age is age 65. All right, Legacy AA folks, your early pension age is age 55. You cannot work and take your pension at the same time, except for one small loophole that only applies to a very few people a year. But for the most part, legacy AA people have to wait until they retire to commence their pension benefits. Again, early pension age is age 55 and full pension age 60. That 3% per year reduction does apply if you start your pension prior to age 60. And like I said before, there's no double dipping with the legacy AA pensions, except for that one very small loophole. All right, double dipping applies to the PBGC pension holders. They can start double dipping at the early or the full pension age, whenever they decide it's appropriate. Early reductions still apply, that 3% I mentioned. And if you wait till the full pension age, there's no reduction in the full value of your pension. All right, pension options. Patrick, how many different ways are there for me to take my pension?
Funny that you should ask about that, because there are 3 different basic ways you can get your money. The first is a single life annuity. The PBGC calls that a straight life annuity. Fortunately for us, the acronym SLA applies to both, and we're an airline, so we run on jet fuel, caffeine, and acronyms. Or the second way is you can share with someone else, and I do remind you, it's nice to share. And the third way is a minimum number of checks. Let's look at each of those in a little bit. Oh, there's also a 4th option for legacy AA, more upfront, less later. So the single life annuity, the SLA, you get a check every month until you're dead, and then it stops. And that's kind of, what we think about when we think about a traditional pension. A payment every month is an annuity. We've got a lot of annuities in our life. For life means it's a life annuity. And this is for one life, yours, which is where we get that phrase single life annuity. And the SLA is the normal form of benefit. Well, what do you mean by normal? Well, when you remember when we were talking about how much I've got to figure out how much I have to save every year in order to have the goal number for my 401k. Well, you have to do the same thing when you start funding a pension for a new employee. They're going to retire in like 40 years or whatever, but you have to ask a lot of those questions. How long are they going to live? How much they're going to make? And then the question is, how are they going to take that benefit? And so the company, when they're doing that calculation, assumes you're going to take the single life annuity. And that's the benefit that federal law addresses most clearly. It's the single life annuity. And the value of that single life annuity, once we get that determined, drives all those other options. So let's look at those other options. First off, it's nice to share. That's a pension for your life and someone else's life as well. They will get an annuity for their life after you're gone. And because they survived you, we call that the survivor annuity. You never get 2 checks at the same month. That one goes to you, you die, now it goes to your survivor. However, remember, it's still the same big pile of money. We're just figuring out how we're going to divide it up. So you can choose to leave them between 50 to 100% of what you get, not your single life annuity amount, but your share of the joint annuity. But here's the problem. The more you leave them, guess what? The less you get.
Yikes.
Well, dang, I guess I have to leave something for Bozo, because otherwise they're going to be living under a bridge when I'm dead. So I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to take less just so they have something when I'm dead. But what happens if they die first? Oh my God, I'm stuck at the lower monthly amount. I could have had a higher amount with the single life annuity. Well, I guess that's just a risk I have to take if I'm going to cover Bozo. But I got news for you. There's a way to cover that risk. Flight attendants have another option called the pop-up option. And the pop-up option says by taking a slightly lower amount each month, you can cover the risk that your joint annuitant dies first. With that pop-up option, if your joint annuitant dies first, it pops back up to the single life annuity in the next month after their death. So it's a good way to cover that risk. How much difference in the price depends on the age difference between you and the joint annuitant. You married that 32-year-old pool boy, go girl. But because of the age difference, they're going to get a pension for a long time. The premium amount is vastly different. And most people are going to take one of these 2 options. And by most people, I mean, like, we're talking 95% or more are people are going to end up with these options, and you most likely will too. But let's take a look at the other options. The first is the guaranteed period certain. And the guaranteed period certain says checks will come for a minimum of 10, 15, or 20 years, or 5, 10, or 15 if you're in the LUS pensions. And that will happen whether or not you are dead or not. The checks are guaranteed to come. There are not very many circumstances where that makes economic sense because you're taking less than the single life annuity. And I mean, one of the few illustrations I can think of is you have someone that is terminal. They want to leave something for a younger person, a college kid or something. But when they plug them in as a joint survivor, because that spread in age is so high, they take a huge reduction. By choosing this guaranteed period certain, it's not such a drastic reduction. And it allows that person, the survivor, to get 10, 15, or 20, or whatever's left after you pass on. So it's a very rare thing, but it does happen occasionally. If you're legacy AA, there's a fourth option as well, and that's the level income option, and it's more upfront, less later. There, again, not very many people does this make economic sense. The classic example is you're 60 years old and you leave. So you take the sudden out and you don't really have enough money just on your American Airlines pension to pay the rent, buy food and everything. You'll be fine when Social Security kicks in, either at 62 or your normal retirement age. But until then, you're kind of in a world of hurt. American says, we got a deal for you. We will give you more of your pension now. And then after Social Security kicks in, one of those two ages, we'll give you less. I'm not sure it makes, actuarial sense, but if you need the money now, you need the money now. So you pays your money, so you takes your chances. So the question is, how do I apply for my pension? Well, no earlier than 90 days before you start your pension. I can hear you now. Oh, no, Patrick, I have to plan months in advance. Sorry. No earlier than 90 days before you want to start your pension. You can request a kit over the phone by calling the A Pension Service Center, 800-527, or 3412, or you can visit netbenefits.com/A and select Collect tab and follow the prompts. What do you mean a kit? Well, that's all the paperwork that you need to request your pension, tell them how you're going to take it, sign off. And if you're married, legally married, you have to have your spouse sign off and have it notarized because they know we will forge their signature. And that's what we call a kit. If you have a PBGC pension, your LUS, you can reach out to the PBGC directly, either 800 number or the pbgc.gov. Go on there and start your own pension section, and one of those things includes requesting a pension estimate. They still mail it to you. Okay, this is 2025, but they will still mail it to you. So you have to request that and far enough in advance that you get a chance to work with it. All right, let's talk about taxes on pensions. Do I pay taxes on my pension? Absolutely. Unfortunately, you pay federal income tax on pension as ordinary income, which means between 10 and 37%. At what rate? Well, here's the chart. If you make between $0 and $11,000, you will pay 10%. If you make over 11,000, everything over 11,000, say you make $11,010, 11,000 is taxed at 10%. The $10 is taxed at 12%. So the next bucket is all that's taxed at the higher rate. It's not like all of a sudden we tax the whole amount at the higher rate. All the way up to if you make 578,000 or more, you're not a flight attendant, and you will be taxed at 37%. Some states don't tax pensions. 14 states. Remember, we're talking about where you should live when you retire. Yeah, you may want to look at. Not only is they going to tax my Social Security, are they going to tax my pension? So there are 4 states that tax only a portion of your pension, in addition to the 14. So you do want to think about that when you figure out where you're going to live after you retire. And remember, your mileage may vary. These numbers are used for some mythical flight attendant and not for you. Wow, that's a lot. Do we have any tips, Kim?
We do. We have some tips. Okay, so pension kits can be requested from AA or the PBGC, as Patrick said, no more than 90 days out from retirement, or your benefit commencement date. So basically, if you're anal and you want to kind of plan everything out, you can go on Fidelity or you can go to the PBGC and request, you can get a pension estimate and you can look at all the different options and ask questions and show all those options to the financial planner and so on well before 90 days out if you want to, but you can't start the process of requesting your pension more than 90 days out. Pensions always start on the first of a calendar month. So be done with your last trip before the end of the previous month, the previous calendar month, not the contractual month. So pensions are based on the calendar month, not the contractual month. Flights through trips or a trip that was delayed or something that could interfere with your retirement date because you can't be working and retired on the same day would delay your pension for a month. So, maybe not flying the day or two before you retire and start your pension might be safe. All right, more pension tips. Have copies of all divorce decrees and quadros. This is important. All of them that if you were married and or divorced during the period of time that you were earning that pension credit, you will need to provide those. If you were married and divorced before you even went to work for the airlines, don't worry about that part. So, but I've had people very surprised and upset because their pension payment was delayed because they did not provide their divorce information. So you may know that your ex isn't getting any of your pension, but they want to see it on paper, unfortunately. Okay, so if you're a widow or a widower, please provide a copy of the death certificate with your pension kit when you return it. The first month is always paid retroactively. So it's usually about 4 to 6 weeks following your retirement. This is for the legacy AA pensions. PBGC, it's probably 4 to 6 weeks after you put in to commence your pension benefits. All right, qualified pre-retirement survivor annuity. This only applies to the legacy AA pension holders. Federal law says that your spouse automatically gets a 50% joint and survivor amount if you pass away before you commence your pension benefits. So say I'm still working and something happens to me and I'm married, my spouse will get a 50% joint and survivor annuity no matter what. However, this qualified pre-retirement survivor annuity form allows you to elect to leave your spouse 100% joint and survivor annuity if you were to pass away before you commence your pension benefits. So that's something that probably most of us who are married would like to do. The form can be found on the Net Benefits website. So basically the Fidelity website, which is netbenefits.com/AA. Flight attendants are the only group at the company that can use this form and submit it, and the company pays. There's a cost associated with it, but we don't pay it. That was negotiated by your union. If you talk to a pilot, they may say, don't submit the QPSA form. It will reduce the amount every month that you get for your pension. That doesn't apply to the flight attendants. You must have been married at least 12 months in order to submit this form. So unfortunately, no last minute or deathbed marriages. That's not going to work. So
dang it.
Go if you're married and you've been married at least a year and you're a legacy AA pension holder, doesn't hurt to go ahead and have the form submitted and on file. All right, questions about pensions. And I lost my thing, it went away. So
okay.
I need you to read the questions.
I will read the questions. So I guess this one is for you. Can I defer my RMDs when I turn 73 if I'm still working?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I think we covered that. So
yes. So this one is that one we're going to return to. And it was, I've been penalized for working during my Social Security years. And now you're going to understand the question. I looked at the amount of Social Security I was earning and said, oh, I don't need to pay income tax because I'm below whatever number. However, what happened is I continued to work in another job and had more income. Well, that combined income pushed me up so that more of my Social Security was taxable. Even though I paid taxes, it wasn't enough because I went into a higher bracket for Social Security taxation. And now you will understand what that question was. Why did I end up having to pay on Social Security when I already paid taxes? And that was because of that. All right, you're
And
back
if you
in.
have more questions, call us about that one. There may be some specifics to your situation that, Patrick and I can shed a little bit more light on. So if you have more questions about that, give us a call. Although we're not Social Security experts, we may be able to point you in the right direction.
Okay. This one is, we'll split it. This one's for you. What's the minimum amount of days I have to give HR before retiring in order to collect my AA pension right after retirement?
You can't collect it right after retirement. It's always going to be retroactive, So if you retire on October 1st, even if you did it 90 days in advance, just to check it off your list and have it done, it's not going to pay because the AA pensions do not start until the company sends Fidelity a message that you actually retired. Surprise, a lot of people change their mind, so they don't even start processing the paperwork until they receive a message from the company that you retired. That's why you're going to always receive your first pension check 4 to 6 weeks after you retire. After the first check, you'll get it like clockwork on the first of every month, but the first one is almost always paid retroactively.
And then I'll take the second part. What's the best date to retire in order to collect your AA pension? The end of the month or beginning of the month? And you have to be retired on the first of the month in order to get your AA pension and also your PBGC pension. You can say, I want to retire on the first of the month, and that's your first day of retirement. You'll get pension for that month. And you also want to make sure, you'd say, if that were all the considerations, I'll retire on the 15th of the prior month, that way except it's not the only consideration. You also have health insurance. So it's all those different things. The first of the month being the first day of retirement, first day of the calendar month, not the contractual month, is generally the best day to retire for all of the different things that depend on your retirement date.
Now, if you're already on your spouse's insurance, if you're already on Medicare, you have another job and you have health benefits through another job, then by all means retire before the end of the month, or before the first of the calendar month. You just don't want to do it to where if you retire on the second of the calendar month, you're going to miss that full month of pension benefits. So, you have to weigh out all these factors and decide what day of the month is best for you.
Okay. When you retire, do you pay taxes when you draw on your 401k? Yes.
Unless it's your Roth.
Unless it's your Roth 401k.
In which case you've already paid those taxes.
Okay. And you said something about ordering an estimate or a dummy kit to play around. Where do I get that again? That estimate for my Fidelity?
Either your My PBA account, if you're a PBGC pension holder, or netbenefits.com/AA, which is the Fidelity website with the link to the AA information.
All right. We're going to talk about COBRA. We'll get to that, COBRA and Medicare. All right. Moving on.
Moving right along.
Medical insurance options.
Okay, I guess that's me. That's my cue. All right, so we're going to talk about options for health insurance. That's what makes a lot of us stay around longer. They're not the best group of options, but they are what they are. So we have COBRA, which is a very expensive option. You see the little dollar signs. AA retiree medical insurance, yikes, even more expensive than COBRA. A lot of people are shocked to see that. We do have retiree medical insurance, and if you're not yet eligible for Medicare, you can opt for that, but it's very, very expensive. Affordable Care Act, it's still out there. That's the best option usually for people that aren't eligible for Medicare or don't have a spouse whose benefits they can elect to go on. So Medicare is the normal option if you're age 65, or if you qualify for Social Security and disability and get Medicare eligibility earlier because of that. The old-fashioned way, you can marry someone with insurance, yay, or die young, boo, that's not gonna happen, we're not gonna do that. So COBRA, let's talk a little bit about COBRA. It enables you to continue the exact same health insurance coverage that you had as an active employee. And the good thing is you don't have to reestablish your deductible or out-of-pocket maxes. Bad thing, the participant pays the full cost plus a 2% admin fee. Coverage can last for up to 18 months. In a normal situation, if you qualified for Social Security disability, you could get up to 29 months of COBRA. It must be taken within the first 60 days of leaving. That's your window for electing COBRA. So if you want the COBRA, don't miss it. It's a one-time deal. So make sure if you need COBRA, you want COBRA, you elect it within the 60-day window. All right, more about COBRA. It can include medical, dental, vision, and flexible spending. You can mix and match the coverage. For instance, a lot of people who are eligible for Medicare decide to keep their dental and vision for another 18 months through COBRA. Once coverage begins, it's retroactive to the date that you left American Airlines. So if you go in and elect COBRA on the 59th day, don't think they're going to prorate it and you just pay for one day of benefits. They're going to go all the way back to the day you retired and left the company, and you're going to have to pay COBRA for the full 60 days if you want that option. Payments, don't be late or your coverage will be dropped. They're very particular about that. COBRA and Medicare, it's very important to know that if you're eligible for Medicare, COBRA is not considered to be creditable coverage as an alternative to Medicare. COBRA is always secondary to Medicare. And to the extent that even if you go, hey, I'm just gonna sign up for COBRA and, I'll let Medicare be my secondary, it doesn't work that way. Or even if you don't sign up for Medicare and think you're going to use COBRA, COBRA will pay as though you have Medicare. So if you are eligible for Medicare, you need to sign up for Medicare. COBRA is not going to work for you. All right, retiree medical insurance. This is the really expensive one I was talking about. You must be between age 55 and 65 at the time of retirement and eligible for the 65-point plan to even be eligible for this insurance. Once you're Medicare age, it's no longer an option, but we have a better option. The participant pays the full cost, and the full cost is substantial. It's uncapped, and it actually doubled in 2015. It's very unstable. So how much does it cost? Well, first, let's look at the coverage. It's great coverage. This is something you rarely see these days. $150 deductible, $400 for a family, $1,000 out-of-pocket max. Sounds fabulous.
Yeah.
But per person per month in 2025, $2,762. Heck, I know that's more than my pension I'm going to get from American Airlines. Anyway, all right. Now that our little pet has fainted at the sight of these costs, what are some other options? Well, if you're obviously not yet eligible for Medicare, you wouldn't be looking. There is the Affordable Care Act. Go to www.healthcare.gov and you can find out what plans are available in your state. If your income is low enough once you retire, you may be eligible for some tax credits. That's not a bad thing. VIA Benefits is a company that contracts with AA, and they can be pretty helpful. If you're over 65, they can help you find Medicare plans. They're Medicare advisors. If you're under 65, they can help you find Affordable Care Act plans. So there's two numbers, one if you're over 65, one if you're under 65, and you can go to myviabenefits.com/American Airlines also.
Speaking of Medicare, one of the most common questions we get is, I am 65 or turning 65, or my spouse is turning 65. Do I have to sign up for Medicare? And the answer is no. But my sister says no. I'll pay a penalty if I don't. No. American Airlines has over 100 employees, and therefore you are not required to sign up for any part, not even Part A of Medicare, if you have active employee health insurance. The thing is, Part A, you don't pay for it. You've already pre-funded it. We all are very intimate with pre-funding here. But it's not going to help. I have never, ever, ever, and I know it's a while, found something that Medicare will cover that an AA insurance doesn't cover. And remember, Kim just said it's secondary. Yeah. So it's not good. Now, there are a couple of very, marginal cases where it will hurt you if you have an HSA. And if you have one, you know it. It's not something you accidentally stumble into. You have to take the core plan in order to get an HSA. But if you have an HSA and you sign up for Part A, they cancel your HSA or won't let you contribute to it anymore. So yeah, but for most of us, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't help. But the answer is no. And if you really want to tell your sister how wrong she is, you can go to Medicare.gov, download the Medicare and You, which is actually kind of Medicare for dummies, and I refer to it all the time because it's really helpful. And it says, I want to say on page 17, but don't hold me to the page number, that if you have employee-sponsored or union-sponsored insurance, you do not need to sign up for Part A. Well, what all the parts are? Well, Medicare, classic Medicare has three parts: Part A, Part B, and Part D. Part A is the one you've been pre-funding. It covers hospitalization. It goes back to the 30s, where it was a hospitalization that just financially destroyed families. And so Part A says we will cover all of your hospitalization if you're over age 65. And then fast forward a couple of decades, and all of a sudden the expenses for doctor's visits and lab tests became quite expensive. And so Part B was set up as a second part of Medicare, and it pays for those sorts of services, your doctor's visits, your lab tests. And because you haven't been pre-funding that your whole career, you have to pay a premium on it. And the premium is, I'm going to say $175, but it's somewhere between $150 $200 a month if you don't make too much money. And there's a chart in our good slide handout that will show you what too much money is. We've talked about IRMA previously. So you pay that every month. And the thing is, that doesn't cover drugs. Well, now drugs, the price of drugs in the American pharmaceutical industry, which clearly has your best interest at heart, will bankrupt you. And so we now have a third insurance called Part D for drugs, that you buy, and you buy those from private companies, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Anthem, one of these private companies. And so those will cover those expenses. The problem is that there is Medicare is an 80% coverage. So there's 20% that you are responsible for on most of these plans. And so to cover that, we have a supplemental plan. We'll talk about those in a minute. Now, if you decide you're going to beat the system and you retire and you sign up for Part A, but don't sign up for Part B and D because those are expensive, and you'll sign up later, guess what?
That's where the penalties
come in. If you should have signed up because you didn't have employer's care and you're over 65 and you don't sign up, you will pay a late enrollment fee. But I hear you say, Patrick, what if I don't retire until I'm 70 and they say you should have signed up at 65? There's a form for that.
Of course there is.
There's a form, CMS L564, and it's available where?
Medicare.gov. Or we can also send it to you. I think it's also available through the Benefits Service Center on JetNet.
Exactly. And it looks just like this, which is surprisingly like the FMLA form. You fill out the top.
A lot less complicated.
Yeah, a lot less complicated. You fill out the top, send it in, American fills out the bottom, they send it in, they go, oh, no penalty because you had coverage. All right, Medicare. What about that 20%? Well, there are Medigap policies that cover that 20%. because in Medicare, there is no out-of-pocket max. So you go into the hospital, you have $1 million worth of surgery, and trust me, that can happen.
Mhm.
Trust me. So they pay 80%. You're on the hook for the 200,000. I don't know about you, but a $200,000 hospital bill is going to be life-changing. So you have this Medigap policy to cover that gap. There are 10 different Medigap plans available, and they are lettered A through M. And you will have to go to our chart in the good slide and take a look and see they all have slightly different coverages and slightly different premiums. You have to find the set of coverages and premiums that work best for you. AA retirees have an 11th option. It's a Medigap Viva created specifically for retired airline workers. And I'm not saying it's any better or any worse. It's just an 11th option that most people don't have. So take advantage of that. Now, some people look at this and go, oh my God, there's all these moving, this is too much. Well, they have a new thing, an Advantage plan. And notice that's spelled with one A and not two, like we're familiar with. And that's also sometimes called a Part C. And that's privatizing your Medicare into an HMO plan. There's a lot of options out there. Some of them are amazing. And because they are incredibly profitable for insurance companies, they will offer you deals. I like to think of them as bribes to get you to sign up for their plan. We'll give you a free gym membership. Yeah, perks. We'll give you a free membership. We'll give you a ride to the doctor. I love that one. They send an Uber for you to take you to your doctor, and they pay for it. There was one that gives you a shopping card for $50 worth of groceries every month. And I'm trying to figure out the connection between my medical care and $50 worth of grocery shopping. Apparently, if I eat unhealthier, I don't know.
If it's healthy produce.
Yeah, I guess so. But anyway, yeah. So there are all these Advantage plans, and you will want to talk to a consultant, Medicare advisor. Kim had one up on the screen earlier, the Via Benefits. They can help walk you through these various and sundry plans, not only the Medigap, but Advantage plans. All right. Also on Medicare.gov, there's some actually pretty good information for a government website. It's really pretty clear. Kim, what else do I need to research?
Okay, so here's all those annoying little details that you need to think about, but you don't really know you need to think about them. So what else do I need to research? Life events, optional insurance, such as your, MetLife legal, dental insurance. What am I going to do about my teeth? Who's going to take care of them after I retire? Flexible spending accounts. How does that work? Well, let's talk about life events. It's very important to know that when you retire, if you plan to go on your spouse or your partner's insurance, your retirement is their life event to add you to their coverage. So you're going to have a limited time in order to do that, usually 30 to 60 days. We put 30 because we want you to get it done before you miss out on the window. So they need to file a life event and make changes, adding you to their coverage within the life event period. If you're married to another AA employee, remember it's also a life event, but there's a little other thing, and it probably applies if you switch to your spouse's benefit too, that when you switch to their insurance, your deductibles and out-of-pocket maximums are going to reset. So even though you had AA insurance, you're going to your spouse's AA insurance, it's not considered a continuation of the same exact plan and so on. So your out-of-pocket maximums and deductibles will be resetting at that time. Okay. More about optional insurance. Your optional insurance includes things like MetLife or Hyatt Legal, whichever they're calling it these days, long-term care policies, which now, if you have a long-term care policy and you were lucky enough to get it when that coverage was offered, it has been payroll deducted for years and years, and now they're changing it. If you received a letter from MetLife recently about your long-term care coverage, you need to set it up as a direct bill because they're not going to be doing payroll deduction anymore for long-term care. Long-term care is the coverage for after you retire in the event that you have to go into a nursing home or something like that. So if you're lucky enough to have the coverage, make sure you set up a new payment arrangement with MetLife for that. Don't miss out. All right, so home and auto policies, you can continue all of those after you retire. Your employee life insurance and accident insurance ends. However, you are given the option to port or convert these policies into an individual policy within, again, 30 to 60 days after you retire. It doesn't require a physical exam to qualify for the life insurance, which is a good thing. However, the policies can get considerably more expensive because you're going from a group coverage with the company to an individual policy. You contact New York Life for AD&D and voluntary personal insurance, and MetLife for the life insurance, and you can get information about porting converting. Long-term disability, which is if you're disabled at work, it covers you, and short-term disability, same thing. Those coverages will end. However, if you're out and you've already filed a claim for long or short-term disability, you're receiving benefits. Those benefits can continue for as long as you remain disabled according to the provisions of those plans. So just because your coverage is ending, if you're receiving the benefits, retiring will not necessarily end your benefits. So, like I said, payments can continue as long as you're eligible. Dental insurance, yikes, this is scary. It is getting a little bit better, but it used to be pretty much nobody wanted to take care of your teeth if you're retired. It's still somewhat challenging to find good dental coverage, but there are some better options, which is promising. MetLife offers retiree dental insurance through the company. Most people don't take it. It's zip code rated, so they look at where you live, and it's kind of a high dollar, low benefit thing. So most people do not take the retiree dental insurance, and they will offer it to you. Most people, other options include the credit union, Benefit Services of America, various things like Costco have pretty good dental programs. Sometimes your dentist will have a covers like Delta Dental or something that you can sign up for after you retire. So look into all of those things as possible options. There are dental schools. You can be a guinea pig. Some people say it works really well. There's a doctor supervising everything. So it's actually a pretty affordable option if there's a dental school near you. Another thing is COBRA. We mentioned it before. A lot of retirees will initially COBRA their dental coverage, even though they're signing up for Medicare for other things. It's not that expensive to COBRA your dental. It's not subsidized by the company to the same extent that the medical coverage is. So it is an option that a lot of people choose. All right, Medicare supplement plans such as the Advantage plans and Medicap are starting to have dental riders and options available. So like I said, it was pretty sparse when I first started doing this, but it's getting better. People acknowledge that we want to keep our teeth after we retire.
Shocking.
I know. All right, flex spending accounts. All right, normally, every year you hear if you don't use what's in your flex spending account, other than like $500, I think you can carry over from year to year, you're going to lose it. Well, when you retire is the one time that you can use it, and basically AA loses it if you do it right. So, every year when we do our benefits enrollment, and this is one time where if people have some health things they need to take care of, that they may want to retire maybe a few months into the new year, because you can say, for instance, I'm going to retire on March 1st. So between January 1st and March 1st, you elect your healthcare FSA during benefits enrollment. You put, for instance, $100 a month in there. You can use up the whole $1,200 between January and March. You've only made 3 deposits, and guess what? You've used it all. AA is going to have to eat the rest. So if you have something going on health-wise that you want to take care of, that might be a good way to defray some of the costs for that, and then retire a few months into the year instead of, right away. And hey, you've accrued a few more months of vacation that way as well, unless you're on an unpaid medical leave. All right, so that's how it works for the FSAs, flex spending accounts. So now it's your turn to decide, are you ready to retire?
You know, it's really challenging because there are a lot of moving pieces, but you know, frankly, it's nothing you can't handle. I mean, think about your life. You travel across the country every day when you go to work. You deal with hundreds of people and hundreds of different challenges, international documents, clearance, customs, immigration,
Irate people.
irate coworkers, and you handle it all with a smile and charm. Yeah, this is kind of new, but it's there's nothing here that you can't handle. There's just a lot of pieces. So what do you do? Where do you start? Well, let's start with a list. And actually, there's a really good checklist on page 37 of the APFA Retirement Package Good slide. It's a great place to start, and then you add your individual items on top of it. You've been to CQ. How do you do an emergency checklist? One task, step at a time in order, and that's how you would do this. And perhaps most important, don't be afraid to ask questions. This is the first time you've retired. And if it's not, we should talk. So ask questions, ask the company, ask your financial advisors, ask your Social Security advisors, and ask APFA. We don't have any dog in this fight other than you having a successful and happy retirement. So don't be afraid to ask questions. You know what? You get that, you get your departure dependability, you get your departure checklist going, you work it, you're prepared. Remember I said being prepared is the way to be happy in it. You've got this. You're ready. Let's go. Good slide.
Good slide.
Hey, questions?
Okay, where are we? We've got more questions. Let's see. Considering switching, myself and my spouse to Medicare during benefits enrollment in October, November for health insurance in 2026. Is that possible? Does that qualify as a life event? Or must I wait for retirement to change over? No, these days, some people are choosing to switch to Medicare while they're still working. Basically, if you do it during benefits enrollment, I guess it's a life event, but you're choosing not to sign up for AA insurance for 2026, except if you want to keep the dental, the long-term disability, all those things, and you're choosing to sign up for Medicare and not sign up for the AA medical coverage. So yes, you can do that. You don't have to wait till you retire to sign up for Medicare. If you sign up for Medicare and make it your primary coverage, you're dropped from the AA medical coverage, but that's what a lot of people want. So I'd say probably maybe 20% of people sign up for Medicare while they're still working, and most people stay on the AA coverage, but you do what works best for you, and you can do that.
All right. This one is kind of complicated, so I'm going to try and break it down into a couple steps and let you answer it. I am currently disabled. I am been out just finishing up my STD, which is 4 months. So they've been out about 4 months. They're converting to their long-term disability. Their health benefits end at the end of May 2029. So at that point, they would have to start COBRA and then Medicare 24 months from the last. If they get their disability, they'll Social Security disability, then they'll be eligible for Medicare. So there's going to be a gap of a couple of months in there in which they don't have American Med coverage through either COBRA or anything else. What are their options?
So basically, their options would be to find an Affordable Care Act plan for a couple of months, or do that really expensive AA retiree medical plan if they're between the ages of 55 and 65 and eligible for the 65-point plan. I think I'd find something if it's just for a couple of months, find something on the Affordable Care Act and try and do most of your appointments and so on before your AA benefits end, and then just have maybe a plan that's, kind of a high deductible, kind of catastrophic plan to cover you those 2 months. Obviously, everything covers, all the Affordable Care Act plans cover your preventive care. So But that's probably going to be your best option.
I think so. I'll take this one. Have you heard about an early out? I hear about early outs every day I'm on the airplane, but it's always from flight attendants wanting one and never from management offering one. You get an early out when the company has too many people and needs to lay people off. It is better for the company to get people to retire voluntarily than it is to lay people off. Because if you lay people off, you're not sure they're going to come back. Whereas if you can get the senior people to retire and keep your people who are already trained and experienced, it's better off for the company. That's why they're willing to give you an early out to leave early. We're not there. We are hiring people like crazy. I was over at the Charm Farm. I hope no one takes offense at that. Charm Farm a couple of days ago, and there were trees, all over so we are not there where life changes. I mean, you think about the times that we've had an early out, that with a couple of times it's been as a result of a contract, but usually it's because, 9/11, something terrible happened and the company needed to shed people. So we're not there. All right, this one's for you. Does retirement travel include Zed fare?
Yes, it does. I think some airlines offer the Zed fares to retirees. So if it shows up in non-rev travel, not My ID travel after you retire, then you can get Zed fares on those airlines. If it's not in there, they're not offering Zed fares to our retirees.
The good news is that actually some of the retiree travel is better than the active employee travel. I've never figured out, but yeah, it's true. All right. Do you pay taxes on your 401k? Yes. Would that amount be the same today? You said we can order. Oh, okay. Sorry. This is just a random curiosity. I'm retiring on 11/1/2025, and my HI-10 says that I'm retired 11/1/2025 to 11/1/2039. How did they know that I'm not going to be retired after 2039?
They're just putting some sort of a weird place marker in there for the Sabre system. So, that's an archaic system, and sometimes they have to put weird things in like that. It's a mystery to me and Patrick as well, why they do that.
Yeah. And I remember I said that the most common question we get is about signing up for Medicare. Here we go again. AA health insurance plans exempt us from any Medicare late sign-up penalties, including Part D, correct?
I'm sorry, I was reading the next one.
So the question is, do I have to sign up for Medicare, or am I exempt from penalties if I have active employee insurance?
You are exempt from penalties as long as you have AA active employee benefits. So the only time you may have to sign up for a portion of Medicare, even if you have active employee benefits, is if you have TRICARE and you need to check with your TRICARE advisors in that situation. You may have to sign up for Part A no matter what. If you have TRICARE, talk to a Medicare advisor or the Veterans Affairs people about that. That's the only exception I've heard.
Correct. And make sure you know which TRICARE you're on, because there are multiple plans out there and the rules are different for Medicare depending on whether they're regular TRICARE, TRICARE for life, so on. Okay. Thanks for all the great info. When I retire, I will convert to my spouse's insurance. He's also an AA flight attendant. How quickly can that change be made to avoid any lapse in insurance coverage? Actually, it's seamless if you time it right. You say, okay, my last day on my insurance is going to be on the 30th of the month. On the 1st of the month, I switch to my spouse's. Remember, however, that it's a new plan. You're a new person, so you have a new deductible and a new out-of-pocket max. If you're near the end of the month or end of the year, like say on November 1st, you're going to switch to your spouse's plan, you're going to have to pay for everything because you have a new deductible. Perhaps you might want to look at doing COBRA for those 2 months, because COBRA keeps your out-of-pocket max that you've already gotten to. So it may be cheaper to pay the COBRA premiums and keep I've already hit my out-of-pocket max for those 2 months. Yeah, you want to think about and talk about that.
And another thing about seamless transition, most of the time, if you're switching to Medicare, you can make it seamless. You can make one end on the end of the month. Medicare started on the beginning of the month. If you're switching to an Affordable Care Act plan, you can do that. If you're switching to a spouse's insurance or COBRA, that's a life event that's triggered by your retirement. That trigger doesn't happen until you retire. So there's not a way to do those things in advance. You're switched to your spouse's coverage because of your retirement life event, it's going to be done retroactively. The coverage will go back to your retirement date, but you're not, in most cases, another company's not going to sign you up until the life event has occurred. And the same for COBRA. They're not going to offer you COBRA until you retire. That's the trigger for the life event. And then you have the 60 days. So there's a few that you can't do totally seamlessly because they're triggered by the life event, which is your retirement. So just want to sign up for it as quickly as possible. And that's more people are comfortable doing that as quickly as possible.
Great information on the verification of employment letter. How do I get that from American? Who do I request that from?
It's on the, I think it's on the, if you go to the Benefit Service Center and you go to the my.aa.com, which is where all the information about benefits is, it should be in forms there. It's also on the Medicare.gov website, and that's probably the easiest place to get it. And if you have trouble finding it on any of those, just call or email me and I'll, make a copy and email it to you.
All right. And then kind of out of left field, what's taking so long on certain contract implementations? We're going to send you to the negotiating team for those.
Yeah, we're going to save that question and have somebody from the KIC call you or something like that, because we don't know, but it's a good question and we'll try and get you your answer.
All right. And I think this is our very last question. How will I elect dental and vision under COBRA? Who will I hear from, or do I have to reach out to somebody?
Okay, so under COBRA, like I said, the trigger is your retirement. Usually within 24 to 48 hours after you retire, you can't get into JetNet anymore. Your new website for everything as an American Airlines retiree is www.retirees.aa.com. You go there, you put that in, it looks exactly like you're logging into JetNet. You use your same employee number, your same passcode, and you're in. You'll see benefits, click on that. You'll see Benefit Service Center, click on that, and you'll see a little thing that says you have messages. Once you open that up, it will usually say, click here to make your COBRA elections if you have COBRA. Or you can wait. They are required to send you something in the mail. They'll send you a packet, but it could take like 30, 45 days to get it. And most people aren't comfortable waiting that long. So the quickest way is to go online and sign up through the Benefits Service Center for COBRA.
Although I do love getting things in the mail. All right. Well, that reaches the end of our questions. But if you're anything like me, the second you click X to close this, you'll think of more questions. And where should they direct those questions, Kim?
www.retirement at
Scratch the W.
It's all that. No WWs. Retirement at apfa.org.
All right. Perfect. And thank you so much for attending our seminar. And we hope you found it useful. Have a great one.
Have a good day. Thank you.